Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Super. I am Queen Denchuku and I'm with Autodesk. I serve as a Global Diversity Manager for Strategy and Partnerships. We are excited to be here with you today. And for those of you that are not familiar with Autodesk, we are a software company and we make software for people who make things. So if you've ever admired a towering skyscraper, used a smartphone, or watched a great film, chances experience what millions of Autodesk customers are doing with our software. And more specifically, our software is used by architects, engineers, and construction companies to design and build skyscrapers and build infrastructure projects like roads and bridges. It's also used by manufacturers for product design and digital manufacturing. And finally, digital artists use our software to design visual effects for films and gaming. Our goal really is to make the best products for our customers, and one of the key elements in achieving this goal is by building a diverse workforce and fostering a culture of belonging. With me here today is my colleague, Jason Gage. He is the Manager of Application Security at Autodesk. He's gonna go through what he has great content around the 5 things you need to know to join the cybersecurity space. And I'm excited for him to deliver this to you. We are a great partner to NACME. I oversee our partnership with NACME, and it's been going on for about, I believe, 4 years now. So we are super excited to continue to engage with you. And if you need to connect with me afterwards, you can find me on LinkedIn. My profile name is Queen Denchuku. We would like to stay connected. And we are also hiring summer interns and full-time employees. So if you're interested in summer internship opportunities at Autodesk, right after the holidays, we're gonna start posting our job descriptions online, but you can also check it out right now. With that, I would like to hand it on to Jason.
Awesome. Thanks, Queen. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for having me. Before we get started into the presentation, into the dialogue, I do want to give some housekeeping rules. First, this meeting is being recorded. Participants, you are encouraged to turn on your cameras. This will be a session that I would like to have a healthy dialogue with all. I'm very excited to meet you all and talk to you all and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of the presentation, we will unmute all the participants to open up the question and answer segment. And this recording will be sent to all that has been registered for this NACME webinar via the NACME TV/YouTube channel. Please, for your Zoom backgrounds, make sure that the background is appropriate. And if you would like to view all participants, there is a gallery view button to the top right on Zoom to view everyone that has joined the call. So those are just some housekeeping rules, but we'll jump right in. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so hello and good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Gage, and today I'll be discussing with you the topic of 5 things you need to know to be interested in a career in cybersecurity. I hope everyone is doing well and staying safe during these times, and hopefully sooner than later we can get back to some sense of normalcy. Special thanks to Kevin Smith and the NACME team for giving me an opportunity to speak to you all today. It's great to see that after 45 years, NACME is continuing to provide scholarship and intern opportunities for students while continuing to strive to increase minority representation in engineering. I must admit, when I was approached by hosting this webinar, a lot of topics, bounced in my head. I was like, should I discuss more of the technical things that I'm doing with my team? Should I, talk about kind of Autodesk in general? But I decided to present on a cybersecurity career pathway, as this is an area that has been getting increased focus and visibility in the last 5 to 10 years. You may have noticed, news articles and about company breaches and things on social media, right? So this is something that cybersecurity has been kind of in the forefront in the last few years. And companies, small, medium, and large, are continuing to invest heavily into their cybersecurity programs year over year, money being poured into it to make sure that they're securing themselves and reducing the risk of their names popping up in, let's say CNN or the Washington Post, right? And as it pertains to the availability of jobs, There are more open cybersecurity positions than there are qualified people to fill them. So think about that. And throughout my career, I've noticed that minorities, especially women, have been underrepresented, in the cybersecurity field, and I would love to see that change, not only at Autodesk, but throughout the industry. As a hiring manager, I, along with my colleagues, are focused on continuing to promote diversity in order to help increase representation, and partner with NACME to help keep a healthy pipeline of scholars to be able to have opportunities to join great companies such as Autodesk. A lot of the material that we'll cover today are things that I never knew when I was, growing up or going through college, right? I didn't have the opportunity to listen to someone that looked like me, right? Who was also a leader in their respective career field, share advice, share kind of best practices, share kind of those wins that have been had, and to help kind of plant the seed for the future. So I'm hoping today that today's webinar will help answer any questions or clear up any uncertainty that you may have about becoming a cybersecurity professional. And before we jump into those 5 areas, I just wanted to share some brief background about myself. As Queen mentioned, I'm currently the Application Security Manager here at Autodesk, based out of San Francisco, California. I lead a team of application security engineers, and one of our biggest responsibilities for the company is to continue to deliver secure software development practices and target remediation solutions to all of our product and development teams, right? We are working hand in hand with those teams. If there's something that has been found as a security issue, my team is on the hook with helping them, get up to speed. If there's code changes that need to be done, if there's, new upgrades that happen with some of the builds that they're working on from a development perspective, how can we, as an application security program, ensure that we are doing the best that we can do to make sure that the entire company is successful? We wear a lot of hats within our roles, but our main focus is maturing our overall security posture. And Queen mentioned this before too, but for those who don't know a lot about Autodesk, yes, we're a software company that makes software products and services to various job functions. You can look at Autodesk being involved in architecture, engineering, construction, manufacturing, media, education, and the entertainment industry. It's a lot of different areas. And in particular, if you look at the entertainment industry, right, Autodesk software has been used to create movies such as Avatar, Finding Nemo, Transformers, Frozen, Ice Age, and that's just to name a few. And when you look at it from a manufacturing perspective, right, the cars that we drive, the phones that we use, the chairs that we're sitting in, most likely has been designed by software, Autodesk software. Another, additional background information about me: I'm a graduate of Louisiana State University with a computer science degree. I'm a native of New Orleans. I'm a huge Saints fan, for those who don't know, but those at Autodesk, they already know. I have a combined 10 years experience in web development and cybersecurity with a core focus of application security engineering. And I've held previous cybersecurity roles with General Electric, Capital One, and I was also a part of the web development team at NASA. Currently, I reside in the Bay Area, California, and I recently moved from Dallas, Texas. So the first thing we'll talk about is discovering your passion. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different stories. We've all experienced different events that have played a part in where each of us are today. And before you can actually apply or even pursue goals towards a career in cybersecurity, you must discover what your passion is. Everyone is different. Everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different beliefs, different ways, and different motivations to do things in life and career goals, right? But this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to know right away what your big 5 to 10 year goals are or what your plans will be. But it's very important to understand those short-term, 1 to 3 year goals for yourself. And the word cloud that I have displayed here, it contains the top 10 cybersecurity job titles. Some of these titles may vary from company to company, but the roles and responsibilities are similar. And collectively, these job titles play an extremely integral part in defining a cybersecurity program. Let's take a look at some of these job titles and discuss their respective job duties. For instance, we have on here security analyst. You know, this is someone who stays on top of security news. This is someone who stays up with the latest trends, reports on the security posture at an organization, and drives security findings to closure. And what I mean by security findings is if there's an application that's being scanned, or there's a system being scanned, if there's a vulnerability that is known, right? How do we burn those down? How do we fix those? What do we look at from a severity perspective? You know, which items are critical, which items are high that we need to fix immediately, right? A security analyst is one of the members of a cybersecurity team that helps drive that to completion and to closure. Another job title was a security architect. Some ask me this question all the time: what is a security architect? What does that mean? You know, this is someone who needs to understand the inner workings and outer workings of a company system. Security architects, they provide recommendations on hardware and software security, and they offer suggestions, via policies, protocols, just advising about tooling that can help enforce and monitor these policies and protocols that are put in place. So think of it as someone who, kind of understands the entire structure of the cybersecurity program, what apps are being developed, how we pushing to make sure that security isn't in the forefront of the development team's mind as you move forward through the development process. Third one I would like to cover is the penetration tester. This one is a fun role. I haven't done it personally, but I've been involved with a lot of penetration testing results and just engagements with them. And this is a role that allows individuals to break things, but legally, right? So someone who wants to be kind of, chaotic, but also kind of in a mindset of, hey, I need to make sure I don't break this item and impact something, later that can take the company down, right? Pen testers, their roles are to detect system weaknesses through manual or automated testing. As I mentioned, they can't just break anything. There's what we call a rules of engagement that a lot of penetration testers go through, where we basically sit down with them and say, hey, you can do whatever you want to do in this space, but do not touch this space, right? And that's because we want to make sure that from a company that is trying to be profitable, like an Amazon, like a Walmart, if someone penetration tests their server that hosts, their marketplace, and they bring that down, that's millions and millions of dollars that can be impacted, right? Financial impact is pretty key. So we want to make sure that those rules of engagement are in place so that the penetration tester knows what they can and cannot do. And one of the big items, the big ticket items for a penetration tester is to focus on what we call the crown jewel. The crown jewel can either be a highly classified document that is supposed to be secured, but some kind of way that the penetration tester can actually access that, or maybe system access, right? Where there may be a system that we think is locked down and no one can get into, but the penetration tester may be able to use some methods to elevate their privileges, become an admin, and wreak havoc. Another role is the role that I'm a part of and I manage with the application security engineer team is the security engineers. These are individuals who conduct security assessments. They review and create reports for leadership, and they drive advisory and consultative services to customers. Sometimes customers can mean external customers, but it can also mean internally as well. And what I mean by internally is our development teams, our product teams, working with them, collectively and collaboratively to make sure that we are partnering to secure these systems, these applications as we move forward throughout the secure development process. A couple more titles to discuss is incident responder. This is another one that I get questions asked about a lot is, what is an incident responder? What does that mean in cybersecurity? This is someone who works in a SOC or what we call a security operations center. They provide rapid responses to any breaches, any threats, any incidents, cyber attacks that come out. And they leverage detection tools to help them with this. So anytime that you've seen on the news any breaches, anything coming up about these different companies being breached, or there's a data breach, a security breach, there's always an incident team that's handling those things, right? Now, whether the response rate is great or it's not, that's kind of up to the structure and a maturity of a cybersecurity program at the company, but they're usually the first line of defense, right, of understanding kind of what's happening. And then the last one I'll discuss here is a computer forensics expert. This is also a very cool role. This is someone who investigates and performs analysis and techniques to gather and preserve evidence. So you will notice that sometimes computer forensics experts will be partnering with the authorities, the FBI, be involved in court cases. This is due to hard drive data retrieval. There may have been, someone doing malicious activity on a server or on their personal hard drive, and then they tried to wipe it clean and erase their tracks, right? A computer forensics expert will go back in and try to reverse those steps, whether that's through hard drive retrieval or even cell phone data retrieval, just searching for deleted, encrypted, or damaged files. And as you discover your passion, you understand kind of what role interests you in cybersecurity. I think the next step would be then, understanding what your path is, discovering your path. One way to kickstart this is by researching existing job openings for your desired roles, understanding what skills or what certifications are required, and then personally take a look in the mirror and saying, okay, based off of my college career, what I've been doing, currently, what are the skill gaps, right? What are some things I'm currently doing that I need to continue to do, but what are some things I need to open myself up to, right? What path do I need to take to get where I need to get to? Determining your career path is needed to achieve your goal. And for example, if you're, if you want to be let's say a senior director over security architecture, for instance, right? What does that path look like? What roles do you need to take to get to that level? What skill sets are needed to get to that level? And what years of experience do you need to become a leader in cybersecurity, right? So starting kind of small, but understanding that you have a growth path that you can kind of see yourself progress to. And I'll give an example, a real world example here, right? Is during my junior and senior year in college, I was a computer science degree major. I was working in retail, so and I'm sure I can share that with a lot of you all, a lot of you scholars on the call today. Is we're working to have a paycheck, make ends meet with some of these jobs that may not directly relate to our passion or our future state. But I knew my passion was I wanted to be a developer. And during my senior year, I began researching developer positions and understanding, what are some of these sought after requirements and skills? Do I need to learn Python? Do I need to learn C++? Do I need to understand Oracle databases, right? Those things, became, front of mind for me of how do I improve myself so that I'm ready for this entry level position that I will jump into. But unfortunately for me, during the skill gap analysis phase, I assess myself and say, I haven't had, too much experience outside of my coursework with developing, and how do I bridge that gap? So I knew that instead of jumping right into an entry-level developer role that may have been tough to land, given that my experience was lacking, I needed to get my foot in the door, right? I needed to work my way up. So what I did is instead of applying to a position as a web developer, I said, hey, let me work at a help desk, right? Let me bridge that gap a little bit. Let me transition a little bit where I can work at a help desk. And this was at NASA, working the help desk, but I had a future state in mind of, hey, Jason, you to be able to do this role, but then as you're doing this role, continue to progress. So while working at the help desk, I began to self-study. I began to code after work and to meet those entry-level requirements, getting my skills up. So after about, I want to say maybe 9 months at that help desk role, I noticed there was a job opening, within the web development team. So I applied, right? And during my interview process with the hiring manager, I basically, talked to them about my journey, about my, my college journey and my passions. And, luckily they gave me a shot, right? Which was the break I needed, and kind of plateaued me up into, where I've gone and where I've been and where I am today. And the thing behind this is just remember, sometimes with our situations there, we may not be right there at the cusp of an entry-level position. But just remember, you know, there's always going to be a short-term setback for a long-term gain. Number three, building your resume. Notice on each of these slides, I'm capitalizing your, because I want to make sure that you understand this is something that you have to do. You have to drive this. You know, there's additional help that can come from mentors and from advocates for you, but a lot revolves around you yourself driving this, being motivated, being energetic to take on the challenges that are in front of you and kicking down those doors. And so, you know, we can talk about this here, building your resume. You know, at this point, you've done your research. You understand that there are areas to focus on and to pursue. And I can't stress enough, this is one of the most important pieces of preparation, as this begins the process of separating yourselves from the competition and from your peers. This is where you begin to, you know, apply yourself after the exhaustive research that has been completed. You know, this is where you begin to put the action into place, you know, to self-study, to acquire certifications, you know, land an internship, take those trainings, perform those side of desks projects to gain additional experience. And even if, you know, there have been cases, right, there, you know, you may have a passion in cybersecurity, but there may be two roles that you're looking for at entry level. You say, hey, I may want to be a security analyst, or I may want to be an incident responder. I really like both roles, and I wouldn't mind going to either role. Perfectly fine. You know, if you're interested in multiple roles, I would just make sure to give advice to make sure to tailor your resume appropriately, that your experiences match the job duties that you're trying to apply for, right? So if you're looking for a computer forensics role, you know, you would include experience that you may have with taking devices apart, or understanding operating systems, computer systems, software, certifications, courses taken, you know, keep it relevant pretty much. A resume for a computer forensics expert role should not look the same as a role for, or as a resume for an incident responder. Another key piece is making sure that you know, everything that's on your resume you can speak to. You know, it's okay to not be proficient in every, you know, single job duty or requirement that the job requisition says. You know, myself as well as other hiring managers, we look for candidates who can show the aptitude or the capability to learn something new, right? If you're lacking in that area, and you know, someone who's motivated, someone who's energetic, those soft skills, right, that you don't see on paper, right? Those are things we're looking for in cybersecurity roles, whether it's entry level, whether it's a leadership role, it's a management role. These are things that we continue to look for, right? If you're lacking in areas, that's fine. That's what training is for, right? Companies, and I can give you an example with Autodesk, right? You know, I've hired on team members to junior AppSec engineer roles, and understood that there were gaps with the particular individuals, but I knew that based off of the intangibles and the soft skills of them, I knew they would be motivated to learn more. I knew that they would be happy to learn and train themselves up to be more, well-versed in the area and be more versatile. Lastly, from a bullet point from this slide is, do not let the pandemic be an excuse for you. You know, the grind still continues, whether we're doing things virtually, you know, or we're, you know, previously doing things in person or a mix. Do not let the pandemic be an excuse for you. Everyone is facing the same challenges. You know, stay focused. You know, as minorities, sometimes it seems that we have to work twice as hard at times to achieve the same goals as our peers, to be honest, right? So do not let this, you know, these times get in the way of that. Continue to stay focused, continue to drive. Time waits for no one, and we can't allow any lapse in focus from us. The fourth area is also a big one, actually a huge one. This is about building your network. You know, building your network is a method that some may consider optional, you know, very passive, like I don't need to do this, I can do it on my own. But man, I really recommend doing this. This is something that you can build advocates for yourself, right? You know, we spend a lot of time looking for opportunities and roles by ourselves, but what if you had 2 or 3 people looking out for you as well? Think about that. While you're looking, you're working, you're trying to, finish your finals, you're trying to get through college, there could be people in your corner looking out for you saying, hey, this is an opportunity for such and such to be able to have a pathway opportunity, whether it's an internship or a full-time position, advocates being there for you, to speak highly of you, to give you that extra push that you need. And you all as scholars already have a leg up on the competition, to be honest, because you're a part of a great organization such as NACME. And NACME has corporate partnership programs throughout the United States where they're pushing to assist with internship placements and post-grad opportunities, right? Please take advantage of this and use this as a stepping stone. A lot of scholars, even myself, right? I never had the opportunity for an opportunity to join NACME as a scholar and as a cohort, right? So I'd love to see that this is still happening after 45 years, where NACME is supporting this, and you all, smart young individuals, energetic, motivated to do great things and build our future. Another way to build your network is by joining networking groups, right? This can be, professional associations such as ISACA or ISC squared, OWASP, to name a few. They're also now growing even more in popularity because of the virtual means that we're in, is LinkedIn groups. These groups help harbor information about cybersecurity, whether it's virtual meetups, latest dates for events, collaborative efforts between companies. You have your pick of your poison, if you will, for those LinkedIn groups there. And then also virtual meetups. Prior to COVID, there's a lot of like meetups in libraries or at maybe some company campus where you can meet up with like-minded or some individuals that's in the same career path as you, where you have those in-person meetups and groups. Some of these groups called B-Sides, InfoSec, OWASP meetups, just to name a few. And another big one. This is one that I had to learn further in my career journey about is obtaining a mentor. There are times that we may become too shy to approach someone of saying, hey, would you like to be my mentor? And I can own up to that and say, in my college years, I was the same way, very passive, very shy, didn't want to ask anybody because I thought it would be a burden upon them. But understand the advantage of having a mentor, right? This is someone that, as I mentioned before, an advocate for you that can assist with, suggesting roles for you, providing, career advice or personal advice even, introducing you to other people, right? Saying, hey, I know this person that works with XYZ company. They're hiring interns, they're hiring, postgraduates. Hey, let me introduce you to this person that can potentially help increase your chances of landing a job opportunity. And one thing to note is a mentor does not have to be someone directly in the field that you're in, right? This can be someone in finance and HR. Those connections will still be there, right? Within their company or externally. And perseverance is key. Going above and beyond may be necessary. I'll give you an example. At one point I was working with GE in New Orleans, and I was in my role for a couple of years, maybe 2.5 years, and I decided, okay, there's a change that I need to do. And so I started looking for roles, right? And I started looking outside of New Orleans, and I started looking to Dallas, Texas area because they had a lot more cybersecurity roles. There was a perfect role, an application security manager at Capital One, and I'm saying, hey, I like this role. This is something that fits me. I have the experience. I have everything I need. But one thing I didn't have was mentors or advocates or anything like that. So I really had to drive myself through LinkedIn to get this role. And what I had to do is I literally searched on LinkedIn for HR managers and hiring managers and cybersecurity managers, and basically went to each of them. I think it was maybe 30 to 35 LinkedIn messages I sent out saying, hey, I see that Capital One is hiring for this role. I believe I have the qualifications to do this. And, can you give me a shot? Out of those 30 to 35 people that I reached out to, one person responded. That one person said, hey, Jason, I am not the recruiter for this, but I know someone who is. And he passed my resume along to that person. That person reached out to me. I got the role, right? So this is why I'm saying, build your network, perseverance, there's still going to be some perseverance throughout this, but continue to understand the importance of building your network, building those opportunities to continue to help you land an opportunity in the future. And finally, for the fifth item, after we've gone through discovering your passion, discovering your path, building your resume, building your network, number 5 is nailing that interview, right? Whether the interview is for an internship or for a full-time position, you should approach it the same way. I'll tell you, as a hiring manager, I can't stress enough how important preparation for an interview is. Practicing that elevator pitch, right? This is an elevator pitch is pretty much a summary about yourself and your experience. And typically within an interview, I would say 2 or 3 minutes max. There's been cases I've done quite a few interviews in my time, and I will give a brief introduction about myself, give my elevator pitch. But then, I ask the interviewee, hey, can you give a brief introduction about yourself? And some cases they stumble, right? They are something long-winded, or, it's something that's not direct. So I really, really encourage you all to take a moment to practice your elevator pitch, right? If you're interviewing for internship, if you're interviewing for a full-time position, this is very key. And I mentioned before on a previous slide about the job fit intangibles, right? Those soft skills. As we continue to host these virtual screenings, virtual interviews, hiring managers are relying heavily on virtual interaction to determine, job fits. Be energetic, show excitement, smile, show engagement. As they're talking, nod your head in agreement, right? And a big one is asking those thoughtful questions. I can't tell you enough how I get to the question part of the interview process, and there's questions that are asked that I've already covered maybe in my introduction. So they're not, I don't know if the interviewee is listening, or ask those thoughtful questions, those thought-provoking questions that you really want to understand, like how's the culture at your company? How are you handling diversity? What does diversity mean to you? Ask those tough questions. Ask them. Because I do the same thing. If you're lacking experience in an area, just make sure you can demonstrate that you stay on top of the latest security news, latest trends, and trainings to excel in your role, right? As we mentioned before, you may not be proficient in everything, but that's okay, right? What does that gap look like? How do you bridge that gap? You bridge that gap by making sure that you let the hiring manager know, hey, I may not be proficient in coding in C++ and Python, but this is my path, right? I've already signed up for this training. I've already been doing this course, XYZ. I've already been staying up on the latest, updates and security trends, right? And that will help hiring managers understand, okay, this person may not have this, but they have high potential, right? They're energetic, they're motivated, and we would like to take a chance on this person. And another piece is, in my role, it's tough to find diverse candidates in cybersecurity, especially in application security engineering, to be honest. And, it's either a lack of candidates applying, or, if we're actively reaching out from a recruitment perspective, there may be issues getting responses back from folks, or it's a timing issue. So, I say that to say, in cybersecurity, it's already a field that lacks, within, minority representation. I see it. I'm pushing for change. Queen, we both partnered together for diversity initiatives at Autodesk to help improve this. And I want to continue that, that path forward, right? So talking to you all, hopefully this allows you to kind of be more excited about cybersecurity, understand more about kind of the inner workings of it, kind of understand, my path towards where I'm at today and the things that I had to get through that I didn't have someone saying, hey, Jason, do X, Y, Z. And in closing, I want to say, the reality of it all is that, as minorities, as I mentioned before, we must work extra hard to achieve these goals and compete with our peers. Will you let the adversity stop you? How far are you willing to go to discover your passion, discover your path, build your resume, build your network, and nail your interview? I surely hope, each and every one of you all can take something away from this, from today's discussion to bring it into your career journeys and your path moving forward. So I'll pause there. I know we got time for questions, so I'll pause there to see what questions we may have.
Hey, I had a question. My name is Jaden. I'm a computer engineering major at LSU, and I'm minoring in mathematics and computer science. I noticed two things that you said that caught my interest. One thing was that being a part of NACME, we have the opportunities to get into like grad schools, maybe on like a master's degree or doctorate degree within our field. And a second question I had was about, you said finding your passion. I'm interested in a lot of different applications in programming. Some stuff mainly applying to like software development, but I do have an interest in networks, and I'm planning on taking courses that concentrate in that area, and want to know what would I have to learn in order to become proficient at network exploits or like defending against it.
Yeah, no, great question, Jaden. So nice to meet you, and you're a LSU alum, so that's good. The opportunities for those post-grad opportunities I mentioned with NACME is, for instance, right now, with Autodesk, we have internships that we're doing interviews on candidates and different things like that, right? And this may be the same with other partners for NACME, but it gives you an opportunity to be able to showcase your talent, showcase your skill set within an internship, right? And then have an opportunity to jump into a full-time role right after college, right? And so this increases the pipeline. This increases diversity pipelines that we can basically groom someone, and if you're doing well, if you're excelling, we can say, okay, Jaden has done a great job. Let's bring him on. Let's allot the budget, to have him come on as a full-timer, and then you'd be able to explore your career and grow from there. And to answer your second question, about the certifications, about the skill set. So there are specific cybersecurity related network security certifications. One is obviously the standard is the network security plus, right? That's kind of your standard, your bare bones kind of understanding inner workings of operating systems, computers, and so forth. But there's also certifications that's offered by C.A.S.E, right, which is an organization that manages the also the CISSP, which is an industry standard certification. They have networking security certification that you can look for. Also, SANS. SANS is also another certification vendor, which I can recommend to you. That is industry standards. It's highly sought after and looks great on a resume to show that you can tackle those certifications from both C.A.S.E and for SANS.
I get what you're saying. It's kind of going back into like your original point, like building your resume. So getting certifications also will build up your skill set, but at the same time, also it's like eye candy for your resume, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a win-win.
Exactly. You look at from a resume perspective, if you go and look at a role, right, for a network engineer or cybersecurity network expert, right, you can look on there and they will have minimum qualifications, right? Some of that would be years of experience, but they may have also this particular certification is a plus, right? And in order to stand out from your competition, all those things are needed, right? I look at resumes, I say, oh, this person has this, certified ethical hacker certification, or, oh, they're certified in AWS cloud, right? I look at those things and say, okay, this is great, because I know that they have some working knowledge of this. I will say too, though, is certifications is not the end all be all. Experience is, right? Think of certifications as something that's supplementary, right? It's something that you will have kind of in your back pocket as a bonus, right? It will bring you over the top. But experience reigns all. Experience is king in the sense of landing a job. So as a network professional, if you're going into that, continue to get your experience and continue to take those trainings, apply it, right? Whether it's internships, full-time position, or side of desk work, continue to kind of bridge the gap with both of those, and you should be fine. You know what? I do have. I know there were some questions in chat that I can also answer as well, and then we can go right into if there's any other questions. So, one question I was asked was, how often do you work with others in your career? Um, this is, I don't think a core cybersecurity program can survive without collaborating with other members of our security organization or just in general, right? So for instance, within Autodesk, with my application security engineering team, we're working with security engineering. They're developing tools to automate things that can help us, right? They're onboarding tools to the system so we can scan applications and get results back and help teams out. We also partner with our infrastructure security teams or security engagement, who works as a liaison between development teams and cybersecurity, right? It's something that is a soft skill, obviously, to learn, is to be able to get along with others, to be able to challenge others, and be open to diversity in the sense of ideas and understanding kind of what the greater good is and decision making, right? So that's work with them pretty often is pretty much it. Another question is, what certifications would you recommend we get started with now to secure jobs later? Do any of them require annual testing? So as I mentioned before, one industry standard certification that kind of can traverse across multiple different roles within cybersecurity is the CISSP. The CISSP is the Certified Information Systems Security Professional Certification. This certification is an industry standard, right? This is one that, in my field, in my roles, it's been recommended that I have, right? And this is something that doesn't require, this particular certification does not require annual testing per se, but you have to keep up with what we call the certified educational credits, right? Continuing educational credits, and they call that CPEs, where you basically would continue to take trainings to keep up to date on the latest and greatest security news, or do some presentations or white papers, or go to a conference. Those things are what has to continue to keep your certification active and renewed. Is continue to have those continuing education. Let's see what else we have. Should an elevator pitch mostly elaborate upon your resume? Exactly. So you want to, you can give a couple of personal tidbits about yourself, but ultimately you're basically summarizing your resume with this pitch. And the thing is, right, is the elevator pitch is not something that is only limited to an interview process, right? You may be at a conference, you may be at a networking event where you're talking to leaders in cybersecurity or talking to peers, right? They may say, hey, what's your name? What do you do, right? Have the elevator pitch ready, right? I've talked to CEOs of companies before and leaders of companies before, right? And they ask me, hey, how are you doing? What's your name? And I go through my spiel. It's just good to have that where it's versatile. No matter who's asking you, you'll be able to have a solidified elevator pitch without stumbling over words or anything of the sort. Other question I see here is, how did you find your passion in cybersecurity? Great question. So I was working at NASA as a web developer. In college at LSU at the time, there was no cybersecurity program there. It was pretty much, hey, we're coding in Java, we're coding in C++, we need you to create this clock or this calculator or whatever project that the professor had us doing, but there was no security in mind. It was just get it done. If it works, if it doesn't work, okay, let's see what's going on with it. When I got into more of the real world, I understood that security played a big part, especially for the federal government, for obvious reasons. And I began to understand more about security frameworks and how to develop securely, how to develop where you're not allowing malicious hackers to perform cross-site scripting, or taking your password and using it across multiple different systems. How do you code securely? That keened my interest, like the security side of it, which I wasn't privy to in college. From there, I then said, hey, I'm pretty good at this developing thing, but I kind of want to see what the security side looks like. And so that transition into cybersecurity happened there. I applied for a role at General Electric, where I was an application security analyst. But my experience as a developer helped me land the job, right? I came in understanding about, programming, about systems, about networks, about hacking, about OWASP top 10, about all these different things. And that drove me into the cybersecurity role, which I've been in since, I want to say maybe 7 years now. So, and I love it. I love the cybersecurity role. Let's see what else we have. And Kevin, and keep me honest if I'm missing any of these questions here, because I know there's a lot coming through.
What were there's one about undergraduate computer courses.
All right, let me take a look here. Okay, yep. So I see, what were critical undergraduate computer courses did you find key in cybersecurity? As much as I hated the math side of it, of computer science, I don't necessarily use the discrete math and the algorithms and all those things day to day, but the mindset, right? The pushing your brain and your mind to the limits, I think help me become a better cybersecurity engineer across the board, right? Even when I started, as a web developer, right? Understanding how to solve those problems, right? And I think that's the skills that, those college courses will teach you. I've also taken a class, I can't remember exactly the name of it. I think it was like business security application or something like that I've taken at LSU as well, where it gave high level of security, right? But it didn't give me enough to go into, my web developer role and say, okay, I know how to code securely, right? That happened further on in my journey. But courses like that will continue to get your mindset kind of working in that way of what are exploits? How can things be hacked? How can we prevent things? What are some of the latest and greatest breaches that have happened? How can you improve it? Let's see. I'm sorry, did someone have something?
I had a question about the courses that you kind of mentioned, as far as like the mathematics part of programming and the benefits to finding exploits and kind of preparing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm doing a minor in mathematics, and the courses that I'm taking for my minor in mathematics are combinatorics and graph theory. But one course that LSU offers in the math department is number theory, and I know that number theory plays a big role in cryptography. So I was wondering, like, if you could give me some insight on that, like if the courses I'm taking will help me for this field, or maybe I could take a course like cryptography instead of graph theory, something like that of that nature.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, Jaden, I think it will help in the sense of kind of sharpening your mind, your mindset, your skills there. But I'm also a big proponent of areas of focus that you want to get into. If you want to focus on cryptography, if you want to focus in on, particular, networking standard or coding language, I think what reigns supreme there is getting into the weeds with those type of courses, right? So it will help you in a sense of kind of fine tuning your brain to understand concepts, maybe learn things quicker, maybe, be able to regurgitate things, with these courses that you're taking currently. But what reigns supreme is having those directed courses, trainings that are specific to those areas, right? And that's why I mentioned too, with kind of on the same lines is the C.A.S.E certification. This is something that is an industry standard, but it doesn't go into the weeds of directly related to these certain areas, right? If you want to be for instance, a cloud architect, right? There's an AWS Certified Solutions Architect certification that you can obtain. If you wanted to, go with, being a forensics expert, right? There is forensic certification you can take. If you want to be a penetration tester, there's one certification called the CEH, Certified Ethical Hacker, right? So there's different ways, different trainings, different certifications that kind of hone in to your passion that I will greatly recommend taking. Don't just use the courses as something that you can leverage in your career. It would just be something that you will basically pivot from.
I get what you're saying. So in order to become good at in some particular area of cybersecurity, you need to concentrate in that area. But taking the additional math courses will help you as your overall understanding of stuff in programming, like computer science and stuff, maybe make relations
Exactly.
faster and stuff like that as well.
Exactly.
I can see that. I can see that.
And the thing is, Jaden, is when you look at someone's resume, right? I can look at someone's resume and say, hey, they graduated from LSU, they graduated from NYU, they graduated from Morgan State University, and you've taken these courses, right? And that's great, right? To see that. But the part that will attract that hiring manager to say, okay, this person has this potential is, what are the differentiating things, right, that you're doing, right? How are you taking those extra steps and going the extra mile to be very competitive in the market, but also be someone who is excited to do the role. So those things that you're mentioning, like the coursework, everyone, there may be some variation of coursework, from college to college. Everyone's taking those courses, right? Everyone's kind of trying to get through college and make sure that they're doing great with their coursework. But what are you doing in addition to that to kind of build off of that? What are you doing on the side? What are you doing from a project perspective? What initiatives are you working on to help build that out?
Jason, there's a question in here from Mystica from University of Texas, San Antonio, I believe. I put it in the chat for you.
Okay. All right, reading it now. Let's see. Hello, Mystica. Let's see. Okay, so the question from Mystica is, earlier in your talk, you mentioned trying to figure out if you should focus on C++ or Python. Which coding language did you find was the most useful for you now? I will say all of the above. As an application security engineer, you have to be well-versed in different areas, right? I use the analogy of learning a foreign language to learning a computer coding language, right? Once you learn Spanish, it's easier to learn Greek and French and go from there, right? Similar to coding languages, right? Once you learn Java, it's easier to learn C++. It's easier to switch over to Python. Yeah, there are some semantics and syntax that's a little bit different, but it's good to be well versed in all of those areas. The reason why is because depending on the companies that you're working for, not one particular application will be coded in just Python, right? There's going to be multiple different ways, right? You may have, there's even a new coding language that's been up and coming called Golang, which is a mobile application coding language, right? Getting well versed on these different areas will make you more versatile. Large companies such as the ones I've worked with before with General Electric, Capital One, Autodesk, all have these thousands of applications, and not every one of them are just coded with the same standards. So I would just say it's good to start with one, to be proficient in one, but continue to learn more about the other coding language, kind of get understanding of the ins and outs, and like I said, some things are different about them, but ultimately, they're pretty much the same once you get kind of familiar with the coding standards and semantics and syntax.
Jason, I have another good question for you. The question reads, I know that cybersecurity experts need to be ready 24/7 in case there's a breach or an attack. How do you handle this level of stress in your job or position? So
great question. I would say for my role within application security engineering, luckily, I'm not a part of the 24/7 piece. There are particular roles, as I mentioned before, for instance, your incident response team, or if you're a chief information security officer, where you're in a leadership role within cybersecurity, where you have an extremely vested interest in anything and everything that happens you're involved in, right? 24/7, right? You just a phone call away, even if it's 2 a.m. in the morning, there could be some type of alert that goes off saying, hey, we have a breach, get on it. So within my particular role, application security, we're not working on a 24/7 kind of basis. Mind you, we do sometimes may catch some work from a breach, or may catch work from some incident they may have happened where it requires additional research, requires maybe helping a team, remediate or fix any issues, but we're not held on the hook of getting calls in the middle of the night saying, hey, Jason, wake up, we have a breach. That's handled by other teams.
Brian Miles asked the question, could electrical engineering tie in with cybersecurity?
Most definitely. Honestly, you know, I wouldn't want to go too far and say maybe any major, but I know in cybersecurity there's a lot of different backgrounds. You know, myself, it's computer science. We have mechanical engineers. We have people who actually have degrees in philosophy that's doing cybersecurity, right? So I would say, the engineering piece, most definitely. Whether it's computer engineering, secure software engineering, application security engineering. Yeah, electrical engineering is definitely can add value, to a cybersecurity role, most definitely.
The last question that I have, you may have addressed it earlier. As a hiring manager, what is it that you may be looking for in summer interns or students who are graduating as seniors or so?
Great question. So I'll do twofold. So for interns, one thing I'm looking for is obviously knowing that the lack of experience may not be there. It's what you're doing to set yourself apart from the peers, right? What passions, how motivated are you, right? If you're looking to join my team as an application security engineer, do you understand the coding concepts? Do you understand secure coding? What projects have you worked on? What can you show for it? Have you developed something in the past that you had security in mind? Are you familiar with the OWASP top 10? These things will help, because I can then say, okay, based off the projects that we have assigned for internships, this person would be a good fit, right? For a full-time role, it's a little bit more stringent, right? Because we're looking for a little bit more experience, obviously, for a full-timer. So saying, what experience do you have in the role? And from a junior role, right? The requirements are less, right? I'm not expecting someone to be a lead on the team or be a mentor to other team members. This is someone who shows those soft skills that I mentioned before of being motivated, having the experience, but showing that you actually are excited about the role. There's been times I've seen resumes where I'm looking at someone and saying, this person has a great resume, they have great experience. But when I talk to them in an interview, it's rough, right? Because you don't get that feeling of, self-sufficiency, someone who's autonomous, someone who can work on their own, someone who doesn't need me as a manager to handhold them throughout all these processes, right? And I look for that in candidates, right? I look for, and I can't stress it enough, I look for autonomy a lot. Someone who can come in, raise any issues or any questions they may have with me, saying, hey, Jason, I have questions related to this, but I'm not holding them throughout the entire time saying, okay, do you need to do this? Have you done this? Have you done that? Someone who comes in energetic, motivated, and ready to work.
We are rounding towards the end of our webinar today. I have one more question, and then if you have any closing remarks. Jason, I forwarded the question to you. I believe it's from Christina from UCF, University of California. I don't even want to guess. Okay. She says she's a sophomore in computer engineering. And the question is, if cybersecurity can also apply to computer hardware security, and if so, how so?
Yes. So currently right now within cybersecurity, we have, and I'm speaking to, well, I can speak to probably a lot of companies who have this, but there is what we call infrastructure security, right? Or vulnerability management. So in addition to, your applications and, things that are being hosted on the web, or your mobile applications that are being hosted in app stores, securing those, there's also the piece of securing, hardware, servers, laptops, machines, having that security as well, right? Not allowing someone who can just come into an office and plug in a USB flash drive into your computer and then run malicious software on it, right? Having those checks and balances and those controls in place is a big part of that. Some of the easiest ways to get into networks and systems is by exploiting hardware security, right? You may have all these different controls and different avenues in place, defense and depth in place for applications, but someone can literally walk up to maybe your computer at a coffee shop, plug something in, and they're within Autodesk's network. They can see, with my elevated privileges, they can access, salaries and or just look for additional information about customers or anything like that. So definitely, Christina, in the area of computer engineering, cybersecurity does play a role in computer hardware security as well.
Hey, Jason. Oh, can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me?
Jaden. This will be the last
Yeah.
question.
Okay, sorry about that. I had a question about security coding that you mentioned earlier. When you talk about things like that, are you talking about implementing programs in a way that's such that exploits like buffer overflow can happen, like if you're programming in C? And I know it's like an outdated exploit, but that was like a very big exploit in the past, where you can input extra data into like an array, you make up the buffer overflow, you have access to stack pointer, you can access like different return addresses and make different programs run like malicious code in a program
Yeah,
just by having
exactly.
insufficient balance.
Yeah, exactly, Jaden. Great question. So yeah, this is where, having that experience. So not only being able to code effectively, but also having security in mind, because the role as an application security engineer, for instance, in my team is we're not doing a lot of coding anymore, but we have that knowledge, right? We and some of these software developers, that's all they are, software developers. They sometimes may not understand the security concept. So that's why we're here and have a role to play within the company to provide that advisory service or those consultative services to say, hey, based off of your code, we've done a manual code review. We see that you have some potential exploits for buffer overflow or cross-site scripting or username enumeration, where you can exploit either database tables information, where you can exploit social security numbers, credit card numbers, and so forth, or any other personally identifiable information.
Excellent responses in general. So with that note, we're going to bring this webinar session to an end. I've been getting a couple of questions about if the PowerPoint presentation will be available and when we will be able to make this live, when can we see the recording. We're looking to make the recording available after the holiday on NACME TV's YouTube page, so you'll be able to receive more information about that. And before we go, I'd just like for everyone, for those that are on camera and for those in the chat room, let's give a round of applause to Jason Gage of Autodesk, to thank him for participating and giving us all this wonderful information. Jason, I know plenty of people want to reach out to you to be able to network with you, so you may want to share that information if you'd like, how they can reach you to do additional networking if so. And of course, if you weren't at the beginning, our Representative Queen indicated that they are hiring for internships, so you can be able to check out their websites or be able to inquire further with NACME. So on that note, thank you so much. Lots of thank yous in the chat. And any closing words, Jason, before we close it down?
Just thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited about the opportunity to be able to speak to you all today. Thanks, Kevin, for setting all of this up, and really hope everyone stays safe and well during these times. Really appreciate it.
Then on behalf of NACME, I'm Kevin Smith, one of the program managers here. I'd like to thank you everyone for participating, and we hope to see you in the new year for our next webinar sessions when they begin. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. Stay safe and be good. Get those grades up. Good luck on finals. Take care.
Good luck. Thanks, everybody.